Chapter 5: The Importance of Story. It's like everyone tells a story about themselves, inside their own head, always, all the time. That story makes you what you are. We build ourselves out of that story. Patrick Rothfuss. Stories are not just stories. Stories matter. Because, to paraphrase Friedrich Nietzsche, if one has a sufficiently strong why, one can endure anyhow. And the why comes not from the facts or events. It comes from the story we attach to them. This desire for meaning is often stronger than our desire for survival because meaning provides motivation or indifference, even apathy. That's how important story is. For example, if one is suffering greatly, one can decide that it is meaningless to go on and give up on life. Or, like Viktor Frankl, one can choose a story that attaches positive meaning to their suffering and thus be motivated to endure even the living hell of Auschwitz. This is true for individuals as well as larger groups of people, such as corporations, religions, or nations. As Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. In other words, we are free to choose our story even when we're not free to choose our circumstances. Because the story is our why, while the circumstances are merely our how. And the story is what ultimately makes the difference, because the story is something that helps us feel connected to a reason and, more importantly, to a purpose. So let's look at some examples at both the individual and the collective level. The Japanese island of Okinawa is home to some of the longest living people in the world. One often quoted reason behind Okinawan longevity is their concept of Ikigai. Ikigai comes from two words, Iki, which means to live, and Gai, which means a reason. So literally, Ikigai translates as a reason to live, something that makes life worth living, a meaning for or a meaning to life. Furthermore, Ikigai is pretty close to the French concept of raison d'être. It is a sense of a personal mission, and it is commonly believed that if one loses their Ikigai, one dies. A claim that is strongly supported by Viktor Frankl's own observations in Nazi concentration camps. And if you want to find more, go read Man's Search for Meaning. Every great leader has a great story. For example, if you're Socrates, your story is, I know that I don't know. If you're Buddha, your story is, life is suffering. If you're Muhammad, your story is, there is only one God and his name is Allah. If you're Martin Luther, your story is, Reformation. If you're Galileo, your story is, and yet it moves. If you're Martin Luther King Jr., your story is, I have a dream. If you're the Beatles, your story is, all you need is love. If you're John Lennon, your story is, imagine all the people. If you're President Kennedy, your story is, we shall put a man on the moon. If you're Steve Jobs, your story is, think different. If you're President Bill Clinton, your story is, it's the economy, stupid. If you're President Obama, your story is, yes, we can. If you're President Donald Trump, your story is, let's make America great again. In the case of larger groups of people, such as corporations, story is the glue that brings everyone together and motivates them to cooperate and overcome obstacles. And so, in the past couple of decades, the most successful organizations have come up with what's been called a massively transformative purpose, or an MTP. An MTP is the distilled essence of a story that captures who this organization is for and what's its mission or purpose. For example, Google's MTP is organize the world's information. TED's MTP is ideas worth spreading. DeepMind's MTP is solve intelligence. Use it to make the world a better place. Calico's MTP is solve death. Mark Zuckerberg's Foundation MTP is cure all disease. Doctors Without Borders MTP is medical aid where it is needed most. Elon Musk's MTP for Tesla and Solar City is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, while for SpaceX it is to back up the biosphere by making humanity a multi-planet species. Patagonia's MTP is we're in the business to save our home planet. Lego's MTP is inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. Having an MTP is particularly important and useful for millennials, for whom the story of money is often not a sufficient why. Larger groupings of people, such as religions and nations, also utilize the power of story to forge their respective religious or national identity. Thus, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism all tell their own mythical stories. And the more we believe in those stories, the more we identify ourselves as Jewish, Christian, Muslim, or Hindu. But nations or ideologies such as liberalism, humanism, feminism, communism, and capitalism do it too. So a Japanese may identify with the story that Japan, Nippon, is the land of the rising sun, or the land of the gods. An American may identify with the story of the land of opportunity, where everyone is free to pursue the American dream. A Chinese may identify with the story of Tianzi, or all under heaven. A communist may identify with the story of equality, or to each according to their needs. A capitalist may identify with the story of personal freedom, the invisible hand of the free market, and the virtue of selfishness. A humanist may identify with the story that man is the measure of all things, since humanity is the pinnacle of evolution and the supreme intelligence on our planet. Each of those levels requires a story in order to create, inform, and guide the identities of its respective constituents. As Lisa Kron notes, story, as it turns out, was crucial to our evolution, more so than opposable thumbs. Opposable thumbs let us hang on. Story told us what to hang on to.